discussion on this bill? Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there are certainly things that should be regulated at the local level. Schools, local budgets, land use issues, but there are things that affect the daily travel of citizens everywhere in the state. What kind of headlights we have in a car. If every town in this state, 169 different municipalities in a small state like Connecticut, had a different set of regulations of what kind of headlights we could have on our car, it would make travel virtually impossible. Because every time you got to another town, you'd have to change the way your headlights work. That's ridiculous and impractical. For one thing, it would be nearly impossible to figure out what towns have what regulations. It's also, when you're driving along on the street or on highways, it's very often impossible to know even what town you're in. So allowing every single town, 169 different towns and cities, to have different requirements as to how firearms can be carried makes it virtually impossible for somebody who is legally carrying a firearm to protect themselves and their family to get to work, to get to the grocery store, to get to the doctor, to visit their parents. Because very often they'll have absolutely no idea what the regulations are, whether they're violating them, and even where they are with regard to a municipal boundary line. So this is a sensible way to make sure that the people that in the legislature can determine the appropriate methods, means, and limitations on carrying firearms in this state. Doesn't take any power away from the state. It doesn't allow things that are currently not allowed under state law. All it says is that in a small state like Connecticut, we should have one set of laws that control how firearms are regulated. You know, you can think of dozens of different things that are regulated at the state level that would be ridiculous to regulate at the local level, because we have, again, 169 different municipalities. So to get from here to Greenwich, you must go through 25, 30 different towns. Well, how do you get here without traveling through multiple different towns? And if every one of those towns has a different requirement and different laws with regard to carrying firearms, you're going to be in violation no matter what you do. It's going to be virtually impossible to travel in this state. So this bill addresses that issue and just says that if there's going to be a regulation, if there's going to be a restriction, if there's going to be some type of limitation on the way firearms are carried, it needs to be done through the legislative branch in Hartford. It can't be done from traffic light to traffic light and from borderline to borderline across one of the smallest states in the nation, which has 169 different municipalities. So I ask my colleagues to support this bill. It is a very sensible bill, and I think that it makes sense on something that involves travel from place to place, and I encourage my colleagues to support it. Thank you.